1963. You wake up in your suburban Australian home and the world operates by rules that would be absolutely illegal today. Not different, not old-fashioned, illegal. If you lived in 1960s Australia, your everyday normal was someone else's nightmare. Things everyone did without thinking, routines that felt permanent, behaviours that were just life. Today we're looking at 10 forgotten everyday things from 1960s Australia that will genuinely shock you, not quaint memories, shocking realities. 1. Smoking everywhere, including hospitals and doctors' offices. Your doctor would light up a cigarette while examining you. In the consultation room, ash falling onto his desk while he wrote your prescription. Hospital waiting rooms had ash traps on every table. Patients would smoke in their beds. Nurses would smoke at their stations between checking vitals. Pregnant women smoked throughout their pregnancies. Doctors never said a word. Some even recommended certain brands as easier on the intermedios. Throat. Get on a plane, smoking and non-smoking sections. Half the cabin wreathed in smoke, air conditioning doing absolutely nothing. Office workers smoked at their desks, all day, every day, secretaries typing with cigarettes dangling from their lips. Restaurants were thick with smoke. You'd finish dinner and your clothes would reek. That was just how eating out smelled. Cinema, light up whenever you wanted. Buses had ashtrays, banks had ashtrays. Government offices had ashtrays. The smell was everywhere, on everything, in everything. Non-smoking sections didn't exist because the entire world was a smoking section. Now, you can't smoke within 4 meters of a building entrance. But in the 60s, if you complained about smoke, people looked at you like you were mentally unstable. 2. No seatbelts and nobody caring. Get in the car, start driving. No seatbelts. Not because you forgot, because most cars didn't have them. When they did start appearing, nobody used them. They were uncomfortable, restrictive, unnecessary. I've been driving for 30 years without one and I'm perfectly fine. Entire families would pile into the car. 7 people in a vehicle designed for 5. Everyone loose, moving around, standing up. Babies sat on laps in the front seat. Toddlers stood between the front seats. Kids bounced around the back. Long country drives, people would stretch out and sleep across the back seat or up in the rear window. The government tried to introduce seatbelt laws in 1971 in Victoria. People were outraged, genuine fury, protests, letters to newspapers. This is a free country. The government can't tell me what to do in my own car. Before that, complete freedom, complete danger. The road toll was astronomical. People died in accidents that would be survivable today. Entire families wiped out in crashes that seatbelts would have prevented. But that was just the risk of driving. Everyone accepted it. 3. Asbestos in absolutely everything. Your house was built with asbestos. Every house was. It was the building material of choice. Roof tiles, wall sheeting, floor tiles, insulation, cement, fences. Asbestos was cheap, fireproof, durable, a miracle material, the future of construction. Renovating your home? You'd rip down asbestos sheeting yourself, cut it with a power saw, dust everywhere, in your lungs, on your skin. No masks, no protection, no warnings. Workplaces were worse, factories, shipyards, power stations. Workers handled asbestos daily, breathed it constantly. Wives would wash their husbands' work clothes at home. Asbestos dust in the washing machine, in the house, on everything. Car brake pads were made of asbestos. Every time anyone hit the brakes, asbestos dust. Schools were built with it, hospitals, government buildings, everywhere. The companies manufacturing asbestos knew it was deadly. Studies proved it caused cancer. They buried the evidence and kept selling it. Now we know asbestos causes mesothelioma, lung, cancer, horrific, painful deaths that take decades to develop. Entire suburbs are contaminated. Buildings can't be demolished without hazmat procedures costing hundreds of thousands. But in the 60s, everyone lived with it, worked with it, breathed it, every single day. 4. Drinking and driving was completely normal Friday arvo, knock off work, head to the pub with your mates, stay for a few hours, 4 beers, 5 beers, 6 beers, then drive home. Completely normal, completely legal. Everyone did it. Random breath testing didn't exist. Police couldn't pull you over without reason. Even if they did stop you and you were obviously drunk, they'd often just tell you to go home. Maybe follow you to make sure you got there. Businessmen would have 3 martini lunches, then drive back to the office. Sales reps would drink with clients, then get in the car. Country pubs would be packed on Saturday nights. Everyone drinking heavily, then everyone driving home on dark country roads. The acceptable blood alcohol limit was 0.5, but there was no way to test it reliably, so it didn't matter. People would brag about their ability to hold their drink and still drive straight. The death toll was horrific. Entire families killed by drunk drivers. Young people dead on country roads. Random breath testing started in New South Wales in 1982. Revolutionary, controversial. Now, you lose your licence immediately. Criminal conviction, social stigma. But in the 60s, drink driving was just part of Australian culture. Nobody questioned it. 5. Doctors prescribing Valium and barbiturates like lollies. Feeling stressed? Here's some Valium. Can't sleep? Have some barbiturates. Anxious? Depressed? Overwhelmed? Here's a prescription. Take 2 in the morning, 2 at night. More if you need them. Doctors prescribe benzodiazepines and barbiturates to everyone. Housewives, businessmen, elderly people, young adults. No questions asked, no therapy suggested, no alternatives offered. Mother's little helper, they called Valium. Every woman seemed to have a bottle in her handbag. Men got them too, for stress, for nerves, for sleep. The chemist would fill your prescription without comment. Refills were automatic. You'd go through bottles of the stuff. Nobody discussed addiction. Nobody mentioned withdrawal symptoms. Dependency wasn't acknowledged. People would take their pills and function, go to work, raise families, live their lives in a medicated haze. Meanwhile, they were becoming physically dependent on powerful, dangerous drugs. Barbiturates are incredibly dangerous, easy to overdose, lethal when mixed with alcohol, highly addictive. But doctors prescribed them freely, for years, decades sometimes. Women in particular were medicated into compliance. Feeling unfulfilled? Take a pill. Don't question your life, just medicate the feelings away. Now we understand addiction, understand these drugs. Prescriptions are carefully controlled. But in the 60s, they flowed. Like water, an entire generation medicated, addicted, and nobody acknowledged the problem. 6. Working with dangerous chemicals without protection, factory workers handled industrial chemicals without gloves, without masks, without protection of any kind. Don't be soft. Get on with it. Farmers sprayed pesticides without protective equipment. The spray would drift back over them. They'd breathe it in, get it on their skin. Painters worked with lead-based paints all day, every day. Paint fumes filling their lungs. Lead dust on their hands. They'd eat lunch without washing up. Mechanics worked with asbestos brake pads, battery acid, toxic solvents. Bare hands. No ventilation. Dry cleaners handled perfluoroethylene constantly, breathing the fumes 8 hours a day. Hairdressers used formaldehyde-based products without gloves or ventilation. Day after day, year after year. Workers in chemical plants, refineries, manufacturing facilities, exposed to substances we now know cause cancer. Neurological damage, reproductive problems, no safety equipment, no training, no warnings. That's just part of the job. Get sick? Bad luck. Nobody connected workplace exposure to illness, no compensation, no support. Occupational health and safety barely existed. Work cover didn't start until the 1980s. Now, strict regulations, protective equipment mandatory, chemical handling procedures, regular monitoring. But in the 60s, workers were simply exposed to toxic substances daily, and everyone treated it as completely normal. 7. Zero sun protection for anyone. Summer in Australia, scorching heat, 40 degrees. Everyone outside, at the beach, in the garden, working in the sun. No hats, no sunscreen, no shade. Men working construction in full sun, shirtless all day, backs burnt red raw. Getting a good tan. Women sunbaking for hours, coating themselves in baby oil or coconut oil to tan faster. Literally frying themselves. Kids at the beach from dawn to dusk. No reapplication of sunscreen because nobody was using sunscreen in the first place. Cricket matches, tennis, golf, hours in the blazing sun with no protection. Farmers working outside all day, every day. Faces weathered and damaged by decades of exposure. A bit of sun never hurt anyone. Being brown was considered healthy, showed you were outdoors, active, living properly. Pale skin meant you were weak, inside too much, probably sickly. The UV index in Australia is extreme. Highest in the world in many places. The sun here is genuinely dangerous. Now we know this. Skin cancer rates in Australia are the highest globally. Melanoma kills hundreds every year. Slip, slop, slap became the campaign. sunscreen everywhere, hats mandatory in schools. But in the 60s, everyone just fried themselves, summer after summer, decade after decade. People now dealing with skin cancers from lifetimes spent completely unprotected under the Australian sun. 8. Lead paint on everything. Every house in Australia was painted with lead paint. Interior walls, exterior walls, every surface. Hospitals had lead paint. Schools had lead paint. Government buildings had lead paint. Toys were painted with it. Furniture was coated in it. Kitchen cupboards, bathroom tiles, everything. Painters worked with lead paint daily, breathing the fumes, getting it on their skin, eating lunch with paint-covered hands. Renovators would sand it off, creating lead dust that spread through entire houses. Families breathing it in for weeks. Lead causes brain damage, developmental problems, neurological issues, kidney damage, reproductive problems. Everyone was being exposed constantly, every day, in their homes, at work, at school. Generations of Australians with lead in their systems, affecting their health in ways nobody measured or understood. Now lead paint is banned. Has been for decades. Removing it requires full protective equipment and careful containment procedures. Houses with lead paint are marked. Renovations require specialists. It's treated as seriously hazardous material. But in the 60s, it was just paint. Normal, standard, on everything. The long-term health effects are still being discovered, still being measured, still affecting people who were exposed decades ago. 9. DDT spraying everywhere, summer evenings. The council fogging truck would roll slowly through suburban streets, pumping out thick clouds of DDT pesticide for mosquito control, for public health. People would sit on their front porches while the fog rolled past, breathing it in, getting it on their skin. Gardens would be covered in it, vegetables growing in it. Nobody washed their produce properly because nobody thought it was dangerous. Farmers sprayed DDT on crops constantly, orchards, vegetable farms, grain crops, everywhere. Workers would spray it without protection. The chemical would soak through their clothes, cover their skin. Households bought DDT to use themselves. You'd spray it around your house, in your kitchen, in your bedroom. It was considered safe, modern, scientific progress making life better. Rachel Carson's Silent Spring warned about DDT's dangers in 1962. The chemical industry attacked her viciously, called her hysterical, unscientific. But she was right. DDT causes cancer, neurological damage, reproductive problems, environmental devastation. It devastated bird populations, nearly drove some species extinct, contaminated waterways, poisoned ecosystems. DDT is now banned in most of the world, recognised as a persistent organic pollutant that accumulates in the food chain. But in the 60s, everyone was exposed, constantly, deliberately. The council would announce fogging schedules. People would plan around them, make sure they were home. You'd smell that sweet chemical smell for hours afterwards. It would linger in the air, settle on everything. The next morning, dead insects everywhere. Proof it worked. Proof progress was happening. Nobody questioned what else it was. Killing. What long-term damage it was causing. 10. Buying dangerous items without any restrictions. Walk into a pharmacy, buy codeine, no prescription needed, no questions asked, strong painkillers, sleeping pills, all available over the counter. Buy dynamite from the hardware store for clearing tree stumps. No license required. No questions about what you were using it for. Purchase serious industrial chemicals from the local shop, acids, solvents, poisons. Pharmacies sold amphetamines as diet pills, marketed to housewives wanting to lose weight. Take one in the morning, watch the pounds melt away. Anyone could buy them, anyone could take them. No regulation, no monitoring. Barbiturates were sold as sleeping pills. Highly addictive, easy to overdose on, but available to anyone who asked. Agricultural chemicals that are now strictly controlled, available to anyone at rural supply stores. You could buy a gun with minimal paperwork, walk in, pay, walk out, same day. The entire regulatory framework that controls dangerous substances simply didn't exist. The government assumed people would be sensible, responsible, use things appropriately, but people weren't. Addiction rates were high, accidental poisonings were common, deaths were frequent. Now, strict controls on everything, prescriptions required, licenses needed, background checks performed. But in the 60s, it was buyer beware, everything available, nothing restricted, freedom and danger in equal measure, 10 everyday things from 1960s Australia that are genuinely shocking by today's standards. We've gained safety regulations, health awareness, consumer protection, environmental consciousness. But we lost something too, that freedom, that trust, that simplicity of living without constant oversight and regulation. Life was more dangerous then. People got hurt. People died from things that are preventable now, but it was normal. It was life. Nobody knew any different. The world has changed dramatically. In just 60 years, things that were completely accepted are now criminal. Behaviours that were encouraged are now prosecuted. We judge the past through the lens of the present, but people were doing their best with the knowledge they had. Maybe in another 60 years, people will look back at us the same way. Shocked by what we considered normal, horrified by what we didn't know. Which one of these shocked you most? What else from the 60s would be completely unacceptable today?